وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK Radio 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Radio Baladi. It's Friday, April 8th, 2022. I'm the guest host, Ray Hanania, here at WNZK AM 690, broadcasting live throughout the greater Detroit region. We got two topics today. The first one in segment one, bringing Palestinians and Israelis together. We're going to talk with two people, Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green, about their organization called Standing Together. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk with, there you go. Where is it? Oh, yeah, Shaheen Gubadi of the National Council of Resistance of Iran to talk about all the things that are happening there behind the scenes. A lot of times we don't see it or read about it. I want to wish everybody a Ramadan Kareem, all the Muslims out there, and also all the Jews, including my wife and my son who are celebrating Passover coming up pretty soon, and also to the Christians who will be celebrating traditional Easter a week from Sunday, and Orthodox Easter 2 weeks from Sunday. And being Orthodox, I save a lot of money because after mainstream Easter is over, I go out and buy everything at 70% off. So, you know, the Orthodox, there is a benefit to being Orthodox. My guest this first segment is Palestinian Israeli Sally Abed and Jewish Israeli Alon Lee Green. And they have a program called Standing Together. Sally is an elected national leader at Standing Together, the Jewish Arab grassroots movement that mobilizes people around issues of peace, equality, and social justice. She's a recurring guest on the Promised podcast and the co-host of the new podcast, Groundwork, a mini-series about Palestinians and Jews refusing to accept the status quo and working together for change. Alon Lee Green is the national director of Standing Together. He got to start organizing Israel's first trade union of waiters in a chain of coffee shops and went on to found Israel's first national waiters union. Alon Lee emerged as a prominent leader of Israel's social protest movement in the summer of 2011 and subsequently served as a political advisor in the Knesset, Israel's parliament. Welcome, Sally. Welcome, Alon. Thank you both for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us, Ray.
Good morning, you guys. So tell us, I mean, I know you're touring the U.S., I think, talking to different audiences and it's about Standing Together. Tell us what Standing Together is and what does it do?
You know, we're waking up to, well, we're here in the US, you know, but we woke up to a very difficult morning this morning in Israel, Palestine. You know, our hearts are breaking just on, not just the morning, really, a week and a period of just so much heartbreak. So if you asked me before, I would be able to just give you the whole automatic, description of the movement. But it's really important to really acknowledge, what we are.
Those events that we're seeing this week, the past month, the past year, they've been going on for a long time.
Exactly.
One side gets hurt, the other side gets hurt, and it's really tragic, and it's good to see Israelis and Palestinians coming together like you guys to, do something about it, because it doesn't seem like people are focused on doing something about this violence on both sides.
Right. So standing together, you mentioned it, is a movement. We are organizing Palestinians and Jewish citizens of Israel around the idea that, we need to create a new kind of majority within the Israeli society that has, the political will to resist the occupation and understand that we all have the majority. The majority of us that live in Israel, Palestinians and Jews, have the interest in ending the occupation, which is the source of these waves of violence and of escalations and people losing their lives. We are also understand that we need to build a just and equal society within Israel, which is why we see the interconnectedness of the struggles between peace, equality, and social justice. Standing Together organizes people through local chapters, throughout the country, as well as through national elected leadership, democratically elected leadership of Palestinians and Jewish people that run campaigns, social campaigns, economic campaigns, as well as obviously, anti-occupation and just peace campaigns.
Alon, tell us why is it so tough to make this vision that you guys are presenting through Standing Alone so difficult? Because people have been trying to do this for so many years, and both of you, I mean, why is it so difficult, and what do we need to do?
Listen, in a morning like this, after a very hard attack that we had yesterday, it's just an example of the reality that we all go throughout our lives. Our prime minister, half of the government in this moment, they're promising us that we need to have a harsh reaction. We need to send more troops to the West Bank. We need to really arrest more people and to have more soldiers doing the things that they have been doing in the West Bank and in Gaza for so many years. And we know and we understand that this will not bring us to justice. This will not create security. This will not bring to the people of Israel, Palestinians or Jews, the feeling that this will save us or that will stop these endless cycles of suffering and of blood. Deepening the occupation, managing this moment with more violence will just bring more blood and more people that will suffer and die. And what we say is that we need to go in the complete different direction, to stand together, Jews and Palestinians, and to understand that we have the interest, the majority of people from both sides, they have the interest to live in security with their homes, with their families, with peace. And that's the only solution. And I think for so many years, people thought that maybe this moment is momentary and we need to preserve the status quo and to maintain the conflict and the occupation. But the truth is, we need to solve it. We need to deeply solve it. And the only way to do that is to organize together and to build the political will, the political majority in Israel that will understand that only with a full and complete equality, really, we will be able to solve it. You know, the person that killed yesterday, the people in Tel Aviv and shot a lot of people that were just sitting in the street of Dizengoff and were in a bar, he was 8 when soldiers came in a very big military operation to his city of Jenin in the West Bank. And he saw a lot of suffering and a lot of people dying. Hundreds died in this time in this operation. I'm not justifying, I'm condemning in the worst way this killing innocent people, murdering them. But we need to understand that hatred is being, is being created. And the will to hurt the others is being created in an endless cycle. People, after yesterday, hate other people.
I just want to add one thing, Ray. You asked why it hasn't been working, this Arab-Jewish partnership.
And I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not working. It's not growing more.
It hasn't been working. It hasn't been working because we are focusing on dialogue and we're focusing on bridging the gaps, and we're cultural and social gaps that you can't actually build an equal partnership between a Palestinian and a Jewish person who have such deep polarized understandings and narratives of who they are. Also, a very deep, a very powerful hegemony of Jewish people, especially within our societies. We're not naive. We don't think that this partnership is an easy partnership. For me as a Palestinian to work with a Jewish person and be able to also navigate my narrative as a Palestinian in Israel through very hostile times, I just dread, I am mourning the lives of the people that have been lost, Palestinians and Jewish, in the last couple of weeks and in the last couple of decades. But I'm also dreading, I'm dreading what's going to happen, the retaliation for our Palestinian people. I'm dreading our reality as Palestinians in Israel at the moment.
You know what's interesting? What's interesting is that this violence goes back and forth.
Right. And I just want to add one more thing.
Go ahead.
What needs to work is actually building an interest-based partnership and understanding that we actually have this interest, because at this moment we are so polarized in terms of organization, and it's not, people in Israel are not, their political affiliation is not connected to their interests. And that's what we organize in standing together around interests of equality, social justice, and security.
I know that you are brought here with the support of two very influential Palestinians and Israeli Jew, Aliza Becker and Sophia Shilu. They have brought you guys to me, but there's so few of people like that. My wife's Jewish, I'm Palestinian. We've been married 25 years this year. We don't agree 100%, but we do know where the line is. There's no violence in our relationship. We disagree, but there's a feeling we get together. And when you bring the two people together, it's easy, right? To be happy once we see each other as human beings. But as long as we see each other from a distance and not have contact, that's why I like what you're doing, bringing people together, showing that you are together. You're on one Zoom. I think that's phenomenal instead of being on two. That's great. It's symbolic. It's symbolic, but it's so hard because we don't have that dialogue today that we had 30 years ago. All we're doing is reacting to the violence. Last week, there was violence in Jenin, and someone could argue, I hear it on the Palestinian side, what happened in Tel Aviv was a response to what happened the week before. And there's no justification, as Alon said, for any violence. But trying to break that emotion is hard. Do you guys, what kind of response do you get from the community? I'm sure I'm going to hear from some people that are going to yell at me and say, oh, look, why are you bringing on the peace movement? We need to stand with our people. And I'm going to say, because we need to embrace hope, right? We can't just sit back and let things happen.
That what we're doing is the most patriotic thing, both to the Jewish and both to the Palestinian society.
I agree.
This is being patriotic, and this is standing with our people, because a solution of just peace, of ending the occupation, of achieving full equality to all the people in our land, that's the way to really be standing with our people. And if people in our societies will call me a traitor because I'm working with Palestinian, and if people will condemn Sally for working with Jews, I think that they are actually taking part in this endless reality. And we're saying that standing together, that really like being together, is the way to go in the complete different direction. And we need that now, not more of the same.
So you're saying on the Israeli side, it's as bad as I think it is on my side. I bring an Israeli and people are yelling at me, why do you perform stand-up comedy before Israelis? It's okay to do it with Jews. Or why do you have an Israeli on your radio show? And I try to tell them, because the goal is peace, to live together. That's the only way to end the violence.
Listen, it's so, this anti-normalization, efforts, they're important. I think a lot of things have been normalized in the past. I think many partnerships that, pretended to be partnerships have been normalizing. What we are trying to do is actually exactly the opposite. It's the only pragmatic, realistic thing to do, which is to understand deeply that we need to build the political will on the ground in Israel for peace. And you can't do that without organizing people and without actually providing them with the political discourse, of this majority that will benefit from ending the occupation. And that's something that we are doing. We're not just dialoguing. And I want to stress that out, Ray, because you really mentioned, we need to meet. No, meeting is not enough. Meeting is not enough, especially when you are on the ground, when you are a Palestinian citizen and you're legally a Class B citizen in Israel. Meeting is not enough. You actually need to organize around political, economic shared interests, and understand that we need to build power. And we are doing that, while everyone is polarizing at these moments, we actually are in the middle, attracting more and more and more people to our base, to the base of the new majority that we want to build. That actually is expanding, and our movement is growing. We have a movement of 3,200, more than 3,200 monthly sustaining members. Our support base, well, on good days, is tens of thousands of people. At the moment, it's probably a little bit less with the polarization, but we actually, through last May, yet another escalation that we witnessed, we saw that we got stronger because there is a will to be together. There is a will because I think a lot of people just want peace and justice and the right to live in security because we deserve to live.
No, I agree. We're going to take a quick break here, okay? And then when we come back, I want to continue talking with you. My guests on the line here at Radio Baladi, on WNZK AM 690 are Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green with an organization called Standing Together. We're going to talk to them in the second part of the first segment. As soon as we're done with this, I want to thank Layla Al-Husseini, of course, for organizing this radio show. It's one of the few places where you can hear these programs every morning, Monday through Friday. And we need to support each other. We need to set aside the emotion. We need to increase the understanding and education. And I hope that this program helps with that. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll return to our discussion with Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green with their organization Standing Together. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com. Bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com. News that matters to you.
بعد تطعيم أكثر من 3 بلايين شخص حول العالم بشكل كامل بلقاح كوفيد-19 تمت الآن الموافقة على تلقيح الأطفال من عمر 5 إلى 11 سنة. فقد أثبتت الدراسات بعد تجارب سريرية مع أطفال حول العالم أن جرعتي اللقاح المخصصة لهم آمنة وفعالة. يوصي الأطباء بتلقيح الأطفال من سن 5 فما فوق من أجل حماية الأصحاء منهم أو ذوي الظروف الصحية الصعبة. الطفل جزء من المجتمع وهو معرض لأن يصاب بالفيروس ويمكن أن يحمله لعائلته ولمن حوله. احمي طفلك وعائلتك ومجتمعك. لقح طفلك ليكون بأمان في المدرسة أو مع العائلة والأصدقاء وأثناء ممارسة الرياضة. تحدث لطبيبك واكتشف الحقائق بنفسك أو زر موقع michigan.gov/kidscovidvaccine. رسالة من وزارة الصحة والخدمات الإنسانية في ميشيغان.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean Mediterranean food. Try Chef Aliyah Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in her authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
And welcome back to Radio Baladi. It's April 8th, Friday. I'm guest hosting here at Radio Baladi. We're broadcasting live on the U.S. Arab Radio Network. You could watch this show on Facebook at facebook.com/US Arab Radio. Make sure to check out my columns at arabnews.com and hanania.com. And don't forget to listen to the new syndicated radio show I host every Wednesday in Detroit on WNZK AM 690, in Washington, D.C. on WDMV AM 700, in Ontario, Canada, and Upper New York on WTOR AM 770, and rebroadcast the next day, Thursday, in Chicago, 12 noon on WNWI AM 1080 every week. So I hope you'll join me. The two guests that I have on are phenomenal, very inspiring, because this is the kind of thing we need to do more of. We talk about the violence all the time. There's 700, almost 800 people killed in Chicago last year, and there is a lot of violence. But if we make the violence the priority, it's gonna prevent us from getting to the solution. And I have two guests who I think are doing something great: Sally Abed, who is Israeli Palestinian, and Alon Lee Green, who is Jewish Israeli, and they have an organization called Standing Together, and they're with us now. Where can people get information about Standing Together?
Well, we do have an English website. We do try to give some information while we target mostly people who live
what is
back home. It's Standing Together. Just if you look up Standing Together, standing underscore together.org. And if you just Google it, you will be able to find it. We also are on Twitter, on which we tweet in English sometimes, mostly in Arabic and Hebrew, but also in English. And we have an English Facebook page. So if you look at Standing Together on Facebook, you will be able to find it.
So what do you both suggest, Israelis and Palestinians, especially here in the U.S.? We don't even talk to each other anymore. Honestly, the Jews and the Arabs, we say we love each other, but the truth is we don't talk to each other. What's the first thing we need to do here in the U.S., and what's the first thing Israelis and Palestinians need to do back in Israel and Palestine?
Here, I think you should start talking. There's so much to organize here around the issue. You are American citizens, and your tax money is actually paying a lot of money for military aid to maintain the occupation.
Do you think us not talking hurts what you're trying to do?
Absolutely.
When we don't do enough here, doesn't it undermine what you're doing back home?
I think it undermines it in two ways. It undermines it because a lot of the time people here, even though they're pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, but then they forget, there are societies. There's a society in Israel. There's a society in Palestine. We have our own struggles and our own dreams and aspirations and our own very complex, very hard realities, in Israel as Palestinians and Jews. And especially, we all know that the very hard reality of Palestinians in the occupied territories and in Gaza. And I think what needs to happen is overcome this urge to be in this camp of pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, and looking at us at blocks of things that we need to protect. And actually, we're not our leaderships, we're not our government, we're not anything of that. We actually have our own lives and we're fighting for it. And you need to be pro people who live there, because the majority of the people that live in Israel and Palestine want peace. Okay. And that's what we need to organize around here as well. And I think this conversation is as relevant back home as it is here and between Israelis and Palestinians.
Alon, I write columns every week criticizing the Israeli government, criticizing the U.S. government, criticizing the Palestinian government, and no matter how hard I say, I'm not criticizing Israelis and I'm not criticizing Jews, people get angry with me and they don't want to talk to me. And then they look at other Palestinians, and I'm sure this is the same on the Palestinian side. But a lot of Israelis and Jews don't want to talk to people who criticize Israel. Mm-hmm. And isn't that part of the problem? That it's not just that we don't have the desire for peace, it's that we each are mad that the other side is criticizing our side. We feel defensive. How do you break through that?
Well, I'm happy to talk to you.
Well, no, I think it's great. And this is Standing Together. I think this is a phenomenon. I love the name.
I think it's very important to remember that criticizing Israel is not being anti-Semitic, and it's not being against the people that are living in Israel, nor Palestinians or Jewish. And I think it's really important to be able to very directly say that there is a problem, that the occupation, the ongoing occupation, more than 50 years of occupation, it is a real problem, and we need to address it.
It's more than that. Yeah.
More than...
No, the occupation, but it's, yeah.
And we need to address this problem, and also we need to remember that as sick as our society is and the problems that we have, people also in this country have problems, and we can organize around these problems. Jews and Arabs in this country, Jewish people and Palestinian people in our country can fight racism together. They suffer from the same economic problems. They suffer from the same democratic problems. They suffer from the same climate. And if we will not understand that we are in this together, not in a very like hippie and nice way, but in a way of building power, in a way of, if we will not do something together, we will not be able to win. So I think.
So if you say one thing I don't like, I should, the tendency is I get mad at you for that 1%. And I ignore the 99%. We don't have to see eye to eye on everything, except for the basic principles, right? Mutual respect, no compromise, mutual.
Being mad is okay, but it's not a political position. And it's not something that's going to help you.
Yes, I agree. And we only got a couple more minutes. And my guests again are Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green, and their organization is Standing Together. The website is standing_together.org. Some final thoughts on what you hope to accomplish and what you're doing. Are you speaking at different places? Are you responding to requests to present to organizations to spread the word? Because I hope you're successful. And I hope Eliza, who's helping you, and Sophia, both phenomenal women who've been doing this for years.
Phenomenal. Women,
yes,
really
they are phenomenal,
and everything they do to help us.
Yes, but it's so hard. Why is it so hard to get your story out to people?
I think it's just the narratives of the polarized narratives are just so powerful, aren't they? And I think a lot of people especially during these times, and we witnessed that we always are living through these times, like violence is very radicalizing, it's very polarizing, and it's a very powerful story. And I think the left, for so long here in the US and in Israel, has been very moralistic, has been very moral, very beautiful. Oh, let's start. It's bad. Racism is bad. Occupation is bad. And that's not salient to people's life. Hate and feeling insecure and being able to feel that, that very strong sense of I'm Jewish and I am Palestinian is very, very powerful. And what we're trying to do is exactly, build a different kind of sense, a strong sense of us that really understands that it's us, the people of this, people who call this place our homeland and actually want to live in peace. And that's our narrative. It's working for many people, and but it is also a challenge to be able to navigate the complexities of that, as well as overcome those strong narratives of polarization and hate that, by the way, will take us nowhere. Unfortunately. And the people who have the privilege of sticking to these narratives you know, especially in the US, Palestinians and Jews who have the privilege to stick to that narratives are the people who don't actually have to navigate our lives on the ground.
I'm going to keep you guys both on until my next guest comes on. And Shaheen Gabadi is a great guy who's going to tell us a little bit about the trauma that the Iranian resistance and the Iranian people are facing. But as soon as he connects, then we'll take a break. So I'm going to give you guys more time because I think it's so important. Alon, any thoughts about that? And, you know, in terms of when people, you know, they react to the negative instead of, you know, are we conditioned maybe? Is that 70 years of conditioning that teaches us to respond to the angry and be non-optimistic about what we need to do?
I think it's, as Sally said, it's the easy position, this conditioning of it's us or them. They want to throw us to the sea. The other day, they want to throw us to the sea or to put us on buses and throw us to other countries. And this feeling is so appealing and so strong in these kind of moments where you see the blood and you read about, you know, the people that are dying and you see the fire in your streets. And I think it's a tough thing to stand together. It's a tough thing to choose partnership in those moments. And you know, our voices are so much, you know, weaker than the voices of people that are promising us more fire and more blood, and that we need to use more violence and more, you know, more soldiers and guns and you know, attacks in these moments. But we need to overcome those voices. We need to, you know, address the very extreme voices in our realities, in both people sides, and to bring people together. And, you know, in my reality, in my people's reality, the extreme voices are in power. The people that are in power in my government are people that, you know, it's hard to condemn them as the extremists, as the people that are, you know, are the equivalent of, you know, violent voices in the Palestinian society, but they are violent. They are violent when they demolish a Palestinian house, when they decide to evacuate a Palestinian family, when they send soldiers to Jenin and kill people that are just trying to live in you know, in a refugee camp even. They are doing a very extreme and violent thing. And we need to really make our voices stronger. We need to find a way to amplify our voices. And we really, like, share what we write in English, like support us in any way you can. It's important that, you know, we will be able to overcome the extreme voices in our realities.
All right, we're going to take another break. I want you to hang on. I'm Ray Hanania. This is Radio Baladi, and we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937, 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, hoisin, grape leaves with steak, mishawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Abdulmajid Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
And welcome back to Radio Baladi. I'm Ray Hanania, and I just want to thank both my guests, Sally Abed and Alon Lee Green, who is the National Director of Standing Together, for their great work on this organization, Standing Together. The website is actually, let me correct it, standing-together.org. www.standing-together.org. You each got a quick few seconds just to kind of finalize before I go on to the next segment. But I want you to know there are a lot of people that are supporting what you do.
Thank you so much, Ray, for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to also reach out to the Arab Palestinian community and just the Arab community in general here in the US. We are always happy to talk more, so we're available. You can also contact us, and thank you for giving us this platform to talk about our work, especially during these hard times.
It's important to do that. Alon?
Thank you for having us. I think we come with the message that the people in our country are better than our government, and we have the interest and the will to have better lives, and these better lives means ending the violent and the military control over millions of Palestinians. And this is something that we really wish people will know about and will hear about and will have the opportunity to connect to. There is a movement in Israel that is fighting the occupation of both Palestinians and Jews. There is a movement in Israel that is fighting for complete equality of everyone that lives in Israel, and we're growing. We're getting support, and we're doing the work on the ground. And yeah, thank you for having us.
All right, both of you, thank you. Sally Abed, Alon Lee Green. The website is standing-together.org. We will talk to you later. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
All right, have a great day, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We're going to shift over and talk with our next guest, Shaheen Gabadi. Welcome to the Radio Baladi here in Detroit on WNZK. It's so good to have him. Shaheen Gabadi is with the National Council of Resistance of Iran. By training, he's a U.S. educated nuclear engineer. So when we talk about the challenges of nuclear weapons in Iran, nobody has the experience or knowledge more than our guest. He's followed the Iranian affairs for the past 4 decades and has been active in the U.S., Europe, and the Middle East. NCRI was the movement that blew the whistle on the Iran regime's clandestine nuclear program in August 2002. Shaheen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show, Ray. And I first of all, allow me to wish you and all your listeners well. And I hope you have been well. And once again, thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, of course. Ramadan Kareem to everybody, all the Muslims out there. Next week, it's Easter and the weekend. And I think at the same time, it's going to be Passover. So we wish both the Christians and the Jews happy Easter and Passover. Shaheen, tell us a little bit about what is the status in Iran today, because I'm reading reports and it doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of attention. It really deserves more about everyday Iranians who are resisting inside Iran, not just outside, but inside. Tell us what's happening.
Actually, I think this is the key point, Ray. As you mentioned, at one side, Iranians are grappling with poverty and hunger. And this is despite the fact that Iran is abundant of wealth and resources. Iran has about 1% of the world population, and it has about 7 to 8% of the world resources. So naturally, one would think that Iranians should be very well-to-do and have a very, very decent life. But quite contrary, because of an entirely illegitimate and detested regime, this situation is very despicable. Let me give you some facts. Last year, the coronavirus death toll in Iran exceeded 500,000. Wow. 500,000 in a country of 84 million people. Obviously, if Khamenei, the supreme leader, had not deliberately paved the way for the spread of the disease and had spent a fraction of his predatory foundation's $1,000 billion fortune on containing COVID-19, this situation would have been very, very different, and the death toll would have been several times lower. In terms of economic situation, the poverty has afflicted at least 70 to 80% of the country's population. According to the government figures in the state press, every minute, 8 people fall under the absolute poverty line, which is said to be unprecedented in the past at least 100 years. Some destitute women sell their newborns for something equivalent of $32.
Wow.
And
that's terrible to hear that.
Exactly.
But I don't think Americans are getting the full picture. You
At
guys
all.
are one of the most active organizations when it comes to shining a spotlight on the atrocities and the war crimes and the brutality of the mullahs who run Iran today and who've been running it since, wow, I mean, for as long as I can remember, since the 80s, I think, or late 70s.
Since 1979, actually, you're absolutely correct. Our movement is by far the most active, the most organized, and which has a very, very vast network of operatives and a great social base inside the country, namely the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran. Despite huge risks and the dangers that affiliation with that movement entails, the support is growing. Let me give you a few more figures. I think that gives you a bigger picture. But
yes,
I have to emphasize this is only one side of the Iranian situation. About 5 to 8 million innocent children have been driven to cruel labor market, and
wow.
And people live in about 3,000 slums, which are plagued by poverty, oppression, and deprivation. At the same time, I think it's very telling that compared with all other Middle Eastern nations, Iran has the largest number of billionaires who directly and indirectly profit from their connection to the supreme leader and the ruling elite. So these figures clearly show you what an explosive situation we are talking about. And that's why I think the new phenomenon in Iran is that there's growing protests and unrest in the country, which has become somewhat like continuous. Since December 2017 until today, there have been 8 major uprisings in Iran calling for regime change and calling for end to the theocratic rule and basically bringing the regime's leaders to justice. 8 major uprisings since December 2017.
That's amazing, because we other than from you, and obviously I communicate with you and Ali Safavi and others at the NCRI, the National Council of Resistance of Iran. So I'm aware of it. But when I talk to Americans, they're not seeing all that. It seems like there's this push to push all that violence back, to get an agreement with Iran on the nuclear talks, and it's been dragging on for so long. Shaheen, we got to take a quick break, but when I come back, tell us about why do you think we're not hearing more about what's being done in Iran? Because that takes courage to be in the country and to protest in a country like that today with a regime like that. That takes huge courage, and those people are heroes in my mind. We're going to take a quick break right here. I'm Ray Hanania at WNZK AM 690, broadcasting live in Greater Detroit on Radio Baladi. We're also streaming live at facebook.com/US Arab Radio. My guest on the line is Shaheen Gobadi, who's with the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Their website is www.ncr-iran.org. And when we come back, we're going to continue talking with them in terms of what we need to know about what's happening in Iran and what we can do. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back right after these messages.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab offers a great array of your favorite Mediterranean meals. Meals range from lamb specialties, shawarma sandwiches, and seafood dinners. Plus, they offer big trays of your favorite food and so much more. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab is located at 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills and is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So stop in or call Kashat's today at 248-538-9552. That number again, 248-538-9552. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied. When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
And welcome back to Radio Baladi. I'm Ray Hanania, and it's April 8th here at WNZK AM 690, broadcasting live to the greater Detroit region. I'm guest hosting this morning. My guest in segment 2 is Shaheen Gobadi, who is with the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Their website is www.ncr-iran.org. Shaheen, tell me about the JCPOA, the agreement that was signed, I think, in what, 2008?
It was signed on July 14, 2015. It was implemented on January 2016.
Then Trump withdrew from it. Then Biden wanted to go back into it. And they've been negotiating now for almost a year in Vienna. What's happening with that? Because it sounds like the Iranians have figured out a way to just drag this on and keep doing what they've been doing in terms of building, their the base for nuclear weapons.
Actually, Ray, one has to remember that the drive to acquire nuclear weapons has been a pillar of this regime's survival, and they look at it as a strategic guarantor for the survival, and that's why they have invested so much on it over the past 3 decades.
Are they close to building a nuclear weapon, do you believe?
Obviously, they have been trying in all 3 directions, namely enriching uranium, weaponization, and also delivery system, the missiles and the warheads. And I can tell you, if it were not for more than 100 revelations that the Iranian resistance based on the human intelligence provided by the network of the Mujahideen Khalq or MEK inside Iran over the years, the mullahs very much would have had the bomb, and that would have been the most dangerous regime on in this planet, acquiring the most dangerous weapon. So I think so far as the mullahs are concerned, they are very much keen on acquiring nuclear weapons, and they are pushing for it. And obviously, as you said, these negotiations have dragged on for years and years because of the simply of appeasement that has been protracted for the past 2 decades. If from the time that the negotiations began back in 2004, 2005, and 2006, the world had been fair, and even at the time that they negotiated for JCPOA, if the world was firm, the mullahs had no choice but to concede and dismantle the whole project. Because one has to remember, the mullahs are very weak. Their situation inside Iran is very feeble. As I mentioned to you, they're facing protests after protests inside Iran. Another aspect, which I think is very important, they're facing a remarkable surge in the activities of the resistance units affiliated with the Mujahideen Khalq or MEK in Iran, particularly in the last year or so. Just on January 27, the 25 state radio and TV networks were all shut down by the MEK affiliated resistance units and started broadcasting slogans against Khamenei and showing the pictures of resistance leader Mr. Masoud Rajavi and Madam Mariam Rajavi. And just a few weeks later, the Ministry of Guidance and Culture, which is basically the institution for censor, its website was brought down and was basically, put out of function. So there has been a major surge of activities of the resistance. There's a growing support by the Iranians, particularly young people and in particular women, in support of Madam Rajavi's 10-point plan for a future democratic Iran. So in this context, the mullahs are very weak, and the correct policy is to be tough and hold them accountable for all their egregious conduct. Giving concessions does not help. It just has emboldened the mullahs. And as I said, so far as the nuclear talks are concerned, it's quite obvious that the mullahs are dragging their feet. They want to get closer and closer to the bomb. Now they are demanding the IRGC be removed from the terror list, which is a absolutely grave mistake if it's done, because everyone knows IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards Corps.
That's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, correct?
Exactly.
And they're the ones driving the terror in the country, aren't they?
And yes, of course. For instance, in November 2019, when people came out in more than 200 cities throughout the countries chanting down with the regime and for democracy and resistance, it was the guards that, upon the orders of Khamenei, shut down 1,500 defenseless protesters in a matter of a few days.
Wow.
So these are basically the backbone of the repression at home, but also they are the main arm of the regime's, export of terror, wreaking havoc in the region, missiles program. So, as I said, the West has to be firm. No concessions has to be made to the mullahs. It should hold the mullahs accountable for this wide range of egregious conduct and nefarious activities that they are having inside Iran and outside Iran.
And continue the sanctions, toughen the sanctions, right? I agree with you.
Exactly.
I agree with you. We need to be tougher. I agree.
Toughen the sanctions, no concessions. And you have to remember that even after 2015, that tens of billions of dollars of the frozen assets were released, there was no improvement in the welfare of the Iranian people. Actually, most of the money was either ended up in the coffers of Khamenei and the top brass of the IRGC, or it was used for repression, or, as I said, supporting the regime's terror groups in the region, in particular Hezbollah in Lebanon. So this is delusional, that one might think that, okay, if the sanctions are removed or reduced, there will be an improvement in the welfare of the Iranian. That's quite contrary. And as I said, while the Iranian people are living in such a miserable situation, the number of billionaires have increased because they're all cronies of the regime.
In Iran.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Exactly. So one has to see there are two Irans, which are separated by an ocean of blood. A very small minority, namely the mullahs, the supreme leader Khamenei and the Revolutionary Guards, and other repressive apparatus, and the vast majority of the Iranian people. So the regime's number one enemy is at home. And that's why Khamenei back last June installed the killer Ibrahim Raisi as the president in order to, in his own mind, trying to prevent the tide or stop the tide that is growing inside the country, but to no avail, and it has continued. So I think the right policy is to be firm and identify with the Iranian people and their desire to establish democracy and to stand on the side of the Iranian resistance to bring about change in Iran by the Iranian people, for the Iranian people, and for the betterment of the world and the region.
I want to thank our guest, Shaheen Gobadi, who is with the National Council of Resistance of Iran. You mentioned you have a lot of women that are with you. Miriam Rajavi is the head of the organization. For listeners to get more information, the website is www.ncr-iran.org. I just want to say, Shaheen, thank you for what you're doing to try to get this information out. We don't read enough about it here in the United States, but you do. I see at your conferences, you get a lot of support from members of the U.S. Senate, bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans, and also in the Congress. Shaheen Gobadi, thank you so much for joining us. I wish I had several hours. One day, Arabs in America will, and Iranians and Muslims, we will have our own big radio station so we can get the voice out and get a diversity of views out there. Shaheen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ray, and I wish you and all your listeners a happy weekend. And I can tell you that the democracy will come to Iran and the Iranian people will bring about the change by themselves and the resistance. Thank you so much once again.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure having you on. Everybody, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Radio Baladi here at WNZK AM 690. This is, Monday through Friday, Layla El-Husseini, every week, Monday through Friday in the morning from 8 to 9 a.m. Detroit time, EST, Eastern time, puts every effort she has into making this a great program. I hope you listen to it. Go to the Facebook page at facebook.com/US Arab Radio to watch this program. Have a Ramadan Kareem, everybody, to all the Muslims. Happy Easter to all the Christians, and happy Passover to all the Jews. I'm Ray Hanania. I will talk to you again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.